Still in Parashat Lech Lecha, in the book of Genesis, the book of Bereshit, Abraham has entered the land already. God has appeared to him. He sensed that he gets the revelation that he got to the right place. He gets blessed by God, who tells him, this is the place, this is the place you should be, and you should be blessed. And now it seems like God is testing him, because the next thing we know is that there is famine in the land. So if he's supposed to stay in this land with his family, with his small family, and with all his the servants and all the people who joined him, we said there was a whole group of people that converted. The word converted maybe isn't precise, because there wasn't such a concept then, but followed his ideology and the idea that there's one God in the world and all the goodness that he's been spreading around. But now how is he supposed to provide for them? People are dying from hunger. What is he supposed to do? God told him, this is the land that I will give to your descendants, but he can't stay in this land. It's as if he's tested, will he stay or not stay in this land? In any case, he's very practical. It doesn't seem like he questions God, the same God that promised him this land or anything. There's nothing about that. He just does the practical thing that comes into his mind, and he just continues on south of Israel to the land of Egypt, where there he can find provisions. He's very rich, he's very wealthy. Maybe he can buy food there and provide for the whole camp that is with him. But when he comes close to Egypt, when he gets there, he tells his wife Sarai, he says, look, I know you're a beautiful person, you're a beautiful woman, and the Egyptians, well, they were known then to have been very, I guess, sex driven. In any case, the words that he says is that once they see you, and if they know that you're my wife, what they will do, and this was kind of common in those days, is that they will kill me and they will take you. Why don't you just present yourself as my sister? And then instead of killing me and taking you, kidnapping you, and then, the end of our journey in life, why don't you say you present yourself as my sister? And then that will be beneficial for me and for you and for everybody else. Now, really, she wasn't his sister, but in a way she kind of was, because we know from later on there's another episode coming up, we know that they had the same father. Terach, the father of Abraham, was also the father of Sarai. At least he wasn't the direct father of Sarai. He was the grandfather of Sarai, and sons and grandsons are very often in the Torah, in the Bible, are have the same name. You say son for somebody who's either your direct son or the son of your son, that it comes from you, even if it's one or two generations afterwards. Likewise, the direct sons can sometimes be, when they grow older, they can be referred to as brothers. Like we see that in different places in the future, also in the Bible, that the sons, when they team with their father as adults, then they're considered brothers. So in any case, Sarai was of Abraham's niece, from the same, because her grandfather was Abraham's father. And so in a way he could say it, and it's not a blatant lie. It's of course not exact, and it's not 100% truth, but there is whatever you can kind of pass. And that's what they do. They get to Egypt, and indeed what he feared indeed came to be, because the Egyptians saw that she was very beautiful, even though she wasn't young. But for the king, who also wasn't young, she was appealing, and so she was taken. She was somehow, the rumor, also the population wasn't so big, so when people came, and especially if they came with big camps and a lot of camels and slaves and everything, it made an impression. They were like celebrities, and then the rumor got to the king of the area, and they would do as they pleased. So the Egyptians, somehow the king, the pharaoh of that time, heard about this man that came with all these riches and camels and everything, and that he has a beautiful woman with him, and she is kidnapped and taken to the king, and is presented as Abraham's sister. And so Pharaoh does what was acceptable, then indeed he gives her brother, so to speak, which is really her husband Abram, he gives him more sheep and cattle and donkeys and many things, and more slaves and maidservants, and really many things. So in order for to please the brother, so that he can take the brother's sister, because the brother was usually seen as the benefactor of his sister. So you just have to kind of bribe him or like give him presents, and that's how you can take the sister to yourself. But if it's a husband, of course you can't bribe a husband to give his wife. You have to kill the husband. Since she was presented as Abram's sister, so that's why Pharaoh gave all these riches to Abram in order to ask him for his sister, so to speak, for Sarai. But God is what happens after is kind of God kind of intervenes, because this sounds like a terrible case, but Pharaoh becomes sick, and him and all the people of his house also have this sickness and this plague come upon them. And somehow they realize, it doesn't say how, but they realize that this must be because of Sarai. I guess it just started exactly when Sarai was kidnapped, was taken to Pharaoh's house. And so they realize there's some kind of connection, and they find out, it shouldn't be too much of a problem to find out. You can just question some slaves, some servants, or anybody from Abram's camp and find out pretty easily that Sarai is not Abram's sister, but is his wife. So Pharaoh calls Abram and says to him, why did you not tell me that this is your wife? If you would have told me, if you wouldn't have told me that, if you would have told me that it was your wife, I wouldn't have done this, which is of course a blatant lie, but whatever. And now this is your wife, so take her and leave. He kind of kicks him out of Egypt, but he doesn't take back the presents. I mean, he's already, the presents that he gave him from the start for Sarai. I guess he fears him also a little bit. I mean, these ailments and plagues that came upon him and his household became because of this person, because of Abraham and his wife. So he doesn't want to mess with him. He just tells him, just leave us. And indeed, they are being sent out of Egypt. By now, Abraham and his wife and everything that's with them, including his nephew Lot, are even richer than when they came to Egypt in the first place, and have no problem dealing with the famine that sent him to Egypt in the first place. And he goes back to Israel, to the land of Canaan, and he goes up from the Negev, from the south, all the way up to Bethel, where he arrived in the first place. And then again, he makes a mizbeach, he makes an altar, and thanks Hashem and calls out the name of God in the world. He keeps spreading the name of God. He is so thankful that God was with him in this terrible experience in Egypt, and it strengthens him even more. So if we thought that this famine has tested Abraham and maybe put him in a bad place, we see no such thing. The name of Hashem, of God, was even intensified more because of these miracles that happened to Abraham, and now the God that he's spreading is even spreading more and more and more in this land of Canaan.